Okay, this video is why you should stop eating processed food. A lot of the stuff I'm going to talk about, some of you might have heard before, but this is a paper I've never presented before on this YouTube channel. And it's about fungal inhibitors, which means mold inhibitors that are put into processed food. They're used for other purposes too. They're sprayed on crops to prevent mold growth. Mold and fungus, same thing. They're called succinate dehydrogenase inhibitors. So SDH is for succinate dehydrogenase. Fungicide means mold. Okay, they inhibit succinate dehydrogenase complex. And the significance is that these intermitochondrial membrane enzymes are highly conserved over so-called evolutionary history, from the simplest animals up through humans. And it's been found out that these fungicides are also inhibitors of animal, including humans, succinate dehydrogenase enzyme on the intermitochondrial membrane. When people have mutations of this enzyme, they have increased risk of cancer. They got increased risk of tumors like gastrointestinal stromal tumor, pheochromocytoma, paragangliomas, renal cell carcinoma like a clear cell neuroblastoma, pancreatic neuroendocrine tumors, thyroid tumors, pituitary adenomas, and something called Carney triad. So I just let you know that with the mutations doing something very similar to what these inhibitors do, there's increased cancer and increased other types of some benign tumors as well. You'll get accumulation of succinate. I'll show you in a moment what that does, but the point I'm saying is they don't test it on humans. They really don't have any safety data. They spray it all over the place. All the processed food has mold inhibitors because no company wants its food to get mold in it, otherwise it gets returned to them. Same thing with fast food. They routinely put mold inhibitors in this stuff. Okay, and you'll get accumulation of succinate and non-function of this enzyme when you have hypoxia. So having this enzyme be inhibited but without hypoxia, that's sometimes called pseudo-hypoxia. You'll see that in the literature if you read about it. But I'm making the point, this is another big problem with processed food. Here's a mitochondria, outer mitochondrial membrane, intramembranous space, inner mitochondrial membrane. I'll just real quick show you this, then I'm going to go through all the other stuff. I'm going to go through a whole bunch of stuff. I just thought this was a little bit new and interesting. So here's SDH, succinate dehydrogenase. It's also called complex 2. It's fed electrons through FADH2. It's part of Krebs cycle and part of the intermitochondrial membrane. Here's complex 1. That's fed electrons by NADH. Okay. Saturated fat inhibits the intermitochondrial membrane at around here, around coenzyme Q and complex 3. When you start inhibiting the intermitochondrial membrane electron transport, normally the electrons are passed down like a snowball rolling down a hill, like a fireman bucket brigade, and then the protons are pumped out into the intramembranous space to build up a pressure gradient like pressurized air, and that gradient's harvested by ATP synthase to make ATP. That's how it normally works. When you block this electron transfer chain, you'll get electrons going backwards. They drop into the mitochondrial matrix and they produce free radicals like superoxide, and that damages the mitochondria when it's present in excessive amounts. Okay, you also get succinate starts accumulating because its SDH enzyme's not working. It goes into the cytoplasm and it causes it thinks there's hypoxia in the cell, so it causes a hypoxia, lack of oxygen response, which means ingrowth of blood vessels and other problems and inflammation, which is sort of a potential prelude to cancer. Okay. All right, and then this is just something I've talked about before, that there's nothing, go ahead if you know anybody, tell them to look in their college or their medical school level biochemistry textbooks and the nutrition textbooks, okay? You won't find anything about mitochondrial inhibitors, but I started going through the literature. I quickly found 10, 20, all the way up to 70 of them, okay? There's tons of them, and a lot of them are really common. Look at these things in processed food. There's fluoride in unfiltered tap water. It's fluoride in some foods if they've been, reconstituted with tap water. Atrazine sprayed on the non-organic soy that's routinely used for high fructose corn syrup. Glyphosate is sprayed on non-organic soy that's routinely used for the protein in processed foods. The people in Nauru, an island next to Australia, they sold their topsoil to the phosphate fertilizer companies because the tropical birds in that area, pooped on the land, made a lot of phosphate for them. And so they had to have all their food shipped in as processed food. They became the fattest people in the world. You can look it up on Wikipedia, Nauru, N-A-U-R-U, fattest people in the world. Okay, so anyways, those are some of the things that, and here's the antifungals blocking complex 2, succinate dehydrogenase, antifungals there. Okay, so that's a really bad thing. You really don't want that at all, okay? All right, the other thing too is they load them up with these flavorants, things like monosodium glutamate, MSG, manufactured free glutamate. It's the glutamate that really affects the taste receptors, so they have a way to concentrate it so you get it with the protein already broken up, freed up the glutamate, so you sense it on the umami taste receptors. And it makes it taste good. That can make stale garbage taste good, okay? It tricks your taste buds. They put a lot of salt on there, which is also not a good thing. They fry them quite often and put oil and grease in there. High fructose corn syrup to sweeten it. They try to get the right mouth texture. So this stuff tastes good, but it's like an HIV prostitute. You know, it might be a pleasant thought, but there's major consequences, okay? It's not good for you. Okay, then a little bit more like what is all the bad stuff or all the good stuff? You know, there's tons of bad stuff in processed food. All the oils are bad for you. They're just pure fat. Artificial sweeteners are all bad for you. Aspartame is one of the worst. It's a brain excitotoxin. The other ones are all bad. They're usually prothrombotic. Food dyes are toxic. They're neurotoxic. They're like quite often complex petroleum-based chemicals. We talked about the glyphosate, the fluoride. PFAS, if you're using nonstick cookware, is bad. Aluminum's in the tap water. Sometimes it gets into some foods, into some other things. Yeah, in lipstick, for example, you'll have lead paint quite often. All right, I was also writing about other things that aren't healthy for you here. I won't go into those two. These are the things that are healthy for you. We won't go into that now. I got some better information here. With regard to processed food, one of the things you'll notice if you pay any attention, most of the time when something is sterilized, that means it's really bad for health. For example, they put fluoride in the tap water, they say to help your teeth. Yeah, great. It causes lowering of IQ. It also decreases fertility. Do you think it's a coincidence that so many things that are subsidized are designed to make you stupid and infertile? See, in my experience, the average pro thinks that the system likes them. Once you realize the system doesn't like you, then you're more motivated to, try to get your act together and learn how to be healthy. So I'll just give you a little clue, like, something your mother or father would say to you. If somebody poisons your water, they don't like you. If somebody poisons your food, they don't like you. If somebody poisons your air with a trail, you know what? A chem? That means they don't like you. So you'd better be a little extra careful in how you handle your health. Soy is subsidized with the atrazine sprayed on it. That helps make you infertile, and it's a mitochondrial inhibitor to sap your energy. Aluminum is also in tap water. That's a neurotoxin to your brain, and it also lowers fertility, and it forms complexes with fluoride. Fluoride is very tightly binds to things. It has the highest electronegativity of anything in the periodic table of elements. So it facilitates the traversal of aluminum neurotoxin into your brain. So it's like a planned way to make it more neurotoxic for your brain. All right. Obesity increases your risk of infertility. These things make you fat. Okay, let's see what else. We talked about the glyphosate, the goitrogenic soy. That'll also, if you're goitrogenic from that, decreasing your thyroid function, that could lower your IQ. Hexane used to process non-organic soy quite often. Might also lower IQ, thought to be neurotoxic. Most endocrine disrupting chemicals, the estrogenic chemicals, about 80% of them are neurotoxic, meaning they can potentially lower your cognitive function. High-fat diets in general, cause obesity, hypertension, diabetes. Okay, glyphosate is also toxic to your liver. It causes increased risk of fatty liver, thus diabetes, increased risk of autoimmune disease by increasing the risk of leaky gut. Leaky gut increases the risk of postprandial amyloid clotting, increasing your risk of blood clots, increasing your risk of atherosclerosis. Okay, so this stuff's all bad. You're not going to win with this. Just a little bit more on infertility. We won't go into that. So these are just some of the reasons. Processed food is for losers. If you're eating processed food, then you're an ignoramus about nutrition. And you might get away with it. You're 20 years old. You got a lot of reserve physiology, health. But the older you get, the more fragile you get. So the smart move is stop eating processed food completely. The best diet is low fat, low sodium, 100% vegan, 100% organic, whole foods, single ingredient only, majority of calories from starch, because they satisfy hunger best and they're very healthy. And then fruits, and then a little bit of fruits and and then a little bit of vegetables. Okay, that's the healthiest diet. No oil, not one drop. No alcohol. Not one drop. I recommend no caffeine. I mean, caffeine's a minor thing, but I would recommend no caffeine, no alcohol, no marijuana, no tobacco. That's to be, and no artificial sweeteners. If you want to be as healthy as you possibly can be, that's the best way to go. Hope that's helpful.